Welcome to another program in our series on Free Thinking Forum. I have with me today Sam Murphy. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, Bill.
And would you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, Bill. So right now I'm the president of the foundation at the First Unitarian Society, and I spent most of my career in the investment management and money management business. I worked in venture capital, investment banking. I managed mutual funds. I managed hedge funds. I was an analyst for mutual funds and hedge funds. So pretty much all aspects of the financial world and the money management business.
Well, that's a very amazing, rounded career in finance.
Thank you.
And now you're heading up the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis Foundation?
Yes, that's true. I've been a member at FUS for about 5 years, and I joined the board of the FUS Foundation 3 years ago and took over the role of investment management for them. I chaired the investment management committee and was asked to become the president this year, so I'm now the president.
Well, certainly that was a perfect fit, in charge of investment management.
Right, that was, and it's nice to invest money for a good purpose.
Yes. And what drew you to First Unitarian Society?
Well, I was going through a kind of a rough period in my own life, and my wife is a Buddhist, and I experimented with Buddhism, and that really wasn't something that sunk in for me too much, and I experimented at other churches, and FUS is actually in my neighborhood, and I walked in one day and into this lovely building, listened to a great sermon that really resonated with me, and loved the way the group treated their children. So that's really what started me at FUS.
Well, good. That's happened to a lot of folks, I guess, coming and seeing the quality of values that we live by.
That's true.
And how would you describe those values?
Well, I think the primary value that I hear every week from David Breeden is nobody has all the answers in your search for truth and meaning in life. And we want to create a capsule and a group of people to allow people safely and freely to explore what makes for a joyful, meaningful existence.
Well put. And David Breeden, of course, our senior minister, and now also I think we're hearing excellent sermons from our assistant minister,
Jim Foti.
Jim
Right.
Foti, yes, and many people know him from when he was with the Star Tribune, covering a very important beat here in Minnesota. But did you bring children into the program of religious explorers, or?
I did not. My children were grown by the time I came around to FUS.
But you were impressed by how we treated the children.
Well, what really sunk in for me was sitting in the pew that day and thinking how much I wished I had been treated like that as a child.
Yes.
That how different my life could have been if I was treated in a respectful, open way like that. I really loved it.
Well, that was true for me as well. And coming to First Unitarian Society, now I do want to get to the foundation, and many of us have heard about the foundation, but they're not sure they understand it. So could you tell me more about what the foundation is?
Sure. The foundation of the First Unitarian Society was founded in 1962, and it really is a series of funds that a special board of FUS members manages to ensure the future of the work that FUS does. So we invest the money in perpetuity with the hope that it will be able to continue to support the work of FUS and some special projects as well past our own lives.
And you speak particularly of the endowment fund and most of the special funds, but isn't there one that the future is now? How would you explain that one?
Right. So one of the 8 funds we manage is called the Future is Now Fund, and that was started about 15 years ago by a group of people who wanted to make larger gifts outside of their normal annual contribution to FUS, but were interested in seeing that money really go to work in their lifetime or in a shorter period of time. So instead of being invested in perpetuity and paying out a fixed sum of money each year based on the interest and the earnings, it pays out 10% of whatever is there. So it's basically is geared that if you give a donation or a large sum, that money will be spent within 10 years to further the purposes at FUS.
Yes, I can understand that sentiment. Trying to make sure that things carry on.
Right.
And, but what is the difference between making a donation to the foundation and a donation to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis?
Right. So First Unitarian Society, if you make your annual pledge, an annual donation to the First Unitarian Society, that goes into the operating budget for the society for the current year. If you make a donation to the foundation, that will be invested so that that money will last again, hopefully, in perpetuity, and will support the work of the foundation long into the future.
Now, how big is the foundation now?
We currently manage about $1.25 million, and over the last several years, on average, have generated about $50,000 a year for the operating budget of FUS and for some special purpose projects that we talked about. This year will be significantly higher than that, probably close to $80,000.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you must be making good investments.
We've done quite well. But if you want to get into the actual investments, we've actually moved everything into very low cost index mutual funds. I came out of the investment world, and I'm pretty much a believer that you can't beat the stock market, and the way that you do the best over a long period of time is by minimizing costs and minimizing taxes. So we utilize a lot of index funds in U.S. markets, U.S. small caps, international stocks, and in bonds.
Well, good. Now, this provides a lot of support to First Unitarian Society in general, to the operating funds, but I understand that from what you say, there are a number of other funds. Could you tell us more about those?
Sure. So we talked about the Future is Now Fund, and we gave a brief idea of the endowment that provides the general funding for FUS. That's the primary.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the vast majority of the money. And then we have one fund that's focused on religious education, which enables the people running that program, the teachers, to buy supplies or hire somebody to come in or to lead a field trip for basic everyday costs or things like that. We have an arts fund.
Oh, by the way, on that religious education fund, that's not the only money that goes in.
No. This is over and above the regular budget. So it's special projects that people want to do. They have a really neat idea for something that they would like to do with their children that's not covered by the regular operating budget, and they can draw on this money to do special things. Yes, that's a good distinction.
And then you were saying?
And then we have 2 funds that focus on music. So there's one fund that the director of music, Barb Brooks, can draw on to cover unusual expenses for her music program.
Now, Barb Brooks is widely known here in Minnesota for her work with the, is it Minnesota Chorale?
I'm not sure of where she works outside of,
yes.
I just know, I'm just familiar with the great work that she does at FUS.
Yes, it is great work.
and on a regular basis, we have a Music Sunday. And for instance, on that Music Sunday, if they bring in a soloist or either a vocal soloist or a musical soloist, or sometimes she hires musicians from the SPCO to come in and support, she can draw on these funds to pay for those kinds of expenses to really beef up the music program at FUS.
Great. From St. Paul Chamber Orchestra?
She did this winter. She had, I think, 5 people from the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. In that period of time when there were some labor disputes with the orchestras.
A great way to...
It was a great way to keep people employed and and draw on some fantastic talent.
Right.
And then we also have a fund that's specifically in music, specifically there to allow Barb to commission new musical works. So probably, I think every year or every other year, she has commissioned a local composer to come up with some new works. So it's also is a very, I mean, there's not many places where you can go to draw on money to commission brand new music that's fitting in a.
And it generates enough to actually provide a chunk of money for commissioning.
Yes, I think it probably is about $3,000 a year is generated from that fund. So you might not get the #1 composer in the world, but you can probably get some budding composers, particularly in the Twin Cities area.
And help them
And
flower.
help them, yes, who are looking to expand the range of what they can do.
And do you recall any of the names?
I cannot off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
We just know it's great music.
It is great music.
That has come out of that commissioning.
Right.
And we have the orchestra, of course, too, so that this gives the composer great freedom in the instrumentation.
Right, we already have the musicians in hand, yes.
Yeah.
And then we also, the other fund that I find pretty interesting is the unrestricted fund, which is the pool of money that the board has a lot of latitude. It's not X% per year goes for a specific purpose. It is can be used for anything. So for instance, right now, that money is being used to pay the salary of the assistant minister for this year at FUS.
In his first year.
In his first year. This is the first time, this is the first time we've added a supporting minister as we've grown significantly over the last year.
Yes.
And at the beginning of this year, part of the space in our building is used by a school. And there was a turnover in the school. And there was some real concern about the operating budget and whether it could support having an assistant minister. And at the same time, it was really the first full year of our new minister, David Breeden, who really wanted to have another person around to help him fulfill his duties. So we thought it was pretty appropriate to bridge that gap between the two schools and the concern about the operating budget to bring in this assistant minister. And hopefully the growth that we are seeing right now in our membership will allow us to cover that cost going forward, or the actual operating budget to cover that cost going forward.
Good. So the unrestricted fund was sort of seed money for having a second minister.
Yeah, it was the linchpin for having
The
a second.
linchpin.
I mean, it wouldn't have happened without the second. And in the past, we have funded audiovisual equipment, stage lighting, new doors for the upstairs assembly hall.
Oh, that was important in order to be able to make use of that beautiful room named for John Dietrich.
The Dietrich room, right. And, FUS is going through a big project or a big cycle of capital investment coming up in the next 5 years where the building needs some attention. And again, it's a perfect purpose for foundation type money to be able to invest in these long-term projects for heating and air conditioning and windows and things like that.
This is a building that won a national award for its energy efficiency, is it not?
It is.
But it's still, we found some changes that needed to be made.
Right. The building was built in 1951, and as much foresight as people have and as careful as we are, there are clearly newer technologies out there today that can be useful.
And then, was there another fund?
We also have a fund that focuses on the arts, and I think we've covered them all.
Oh, how about Kurt Pearson?
Oh, I'm sorry, right. The Kurt Pearson. That's one that the cycle for that just finished, and that's probably the most fun project that I get to work on as a president. And
as president
of the foundation.
And Mibbs Pearson?
Myself, Mibbs Pearson, and a member of the Social Concerns Committee at FUS. So this is a fund that was started by the Pearson family. I believe it was 1992.
In memory
of Kurt Pearson, who was very active in a number of social service organizations. And it's a pretty modest fund, and in a given year it donates about $2,500 in grants. But we try to find smaller organizations that aren't well funded, that for whom $500 can make a real difference. So for instance, if I can remember off the top of my head this year, we funded $500 to the Human Rights Center at the University of Minnesota that will pay half of their cost of, they have a new volume of work that was published in conjunction with a university in Chile that talks about the lives and best practices of human rights activists and leaders from around the world. And this money is going to be spent putting that in an ebook format. So this will be the first time they've put that on an ebook.
Really? That's quite an international accomplishment.
And it's a project that $500 makes a big difference. Or downtown congregations to end homelessness. One of the projects they've been working on is providing bicycles for homeless people that they work with. Mm-hmm. And they're getting donated bicycles, they're getting donated fix up the bicycle time, and what they lacked was locks. So they didn't know what to do. They had 20 bicycles, and they asked us for $300 to buy locks for bicycles, which again, we were able to do, and it's a nice small project.
And of course, the congregation is a member of Downtown Congregation.
We are very active in that, yes.
And working on ending homelessness in particular.
So those are the types, again, they're generally local organizations that focus on the social service aspect and trying to make this a fairer and more just world. And with a few $100s or $500, have a real project and a real need that they can accomplish.
And it exemplifies the fact that we are united around values rather than beliefs.
Yes, yes, this is putting your values in action, yes.
And there were a few other...
Right, so I'm trying to remember, so the other one we funded was an organization called Bundles of Love, which...
Bundles of Love?
Bundles of Love, which it's nothing but volunteers, and they've created a huge volunteer organization in the Twin Cities that hand sew all the basic items that a baby might need for needy families. So they'll sew them a diaper bag, diapers, shirts, pants, nightgowns. And in our service 2 weeks ago, when that award was accepted, the point was made that not only are you delivering some needed things for these babies, you're delivering a message to these families that you still are a valued member of our society, even if you're poor.
You're a beloved member of the community.
Of the community. We donated money to, and the name escapes me right in the...
Oh, was it the adult?
The adult education academic program, right.
Yes, and Teresa Zingery is in charge of that?
That's correct.
At Robbinsdale School District?
That's correct. And that's a fairly large organization that focuses on adult education, primarily of immigrants who have come to this country recently, trying to enable them to build a better life. And again, there are certain things that federal and state funding just can't cover. So in this particular case, they have found a lot of success providing small incentives to keep students engaged and coming back repeatedly, because it's hard. It's hard when you're working 2 jobs to go to school and you've got children. So this specific money, I think it was $500, went to funding gift cards to Target and Cub Foods and places like that, that if you put 50 hours in, you get entered in a lottery and you can win these gift cards. And they found it provides some real incentives to keep people in the program and in school.
Learning to what? Complete their high school?
Yeah, well, it's high school GED, either to get a job or a certain percentage of them actually apply for college afterwards as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then the last we founded was Camp Quest of Minnesota. And Camp Quest is, I think, probably in Minnesota unique in being the only humanist, atheist, free-thinking camp that combines traditional sleepaway camp experiences along with education on morals and ethics and how do you think independently, and how do you make decisions? And they're part of a national organization. They were going through a rebranding so that all of these organizations are consistent. And again, they needed $800 to come up with new letterhead and cards and banners and website and things like that. So we were able to fund
good.
that.
Well, that Camp Quest serves increasingly numbers of children that from humanist families
Right.
that need this opportunity in the summertime.
It's pretty unique.
Yeah. And Sam, many people who've been in the building have really been surprised and impressed by the new artwork that the foundation has put out there. Could you describe that to people, how we came about?
Right. So 2 years ago, a few members of the board, the foundation has a subset of people called Friends of the Foundation, which are really the most generous donors to the foundation. And to become part of that, it is either you donate $1,000 in a given year, or as part of the process of committing to making a pledge to the foundation, you indicate that it's in your will. We are in your will. So we commissioned an artwork from a woman in Duluth that now hangs in our front entryway.
And she was chosen?
She was chosen out of about 15 people that applied. We put out a kind of traditional request for proposals. And some people choose to remain anonymous, but a lot of people like having recorded for the future with a small brass plaque on this piece of artwork that they are a significant contributor to the future of the foundation.
And it's such a beautiful work of art. How would you describe that?
Well, it's the backing is Douglas fir, large planks of Douglas fir, and then it's a cast bronze of hands holding a small tree.
Some earth and a tree.
And a tree growing. So it's kind of the I think nurturing the next generation of promise and growth.
It is an exceptional work of art.
Thank you.
And thank you for your part in choosing it.
You're welcome.
Now, can you tell us more about, is there anything more about the foundation or about your background that you bring to this work?
Well, I do have extensive experience in investing in lots of different venues, and I think I've been able to lead the organization to an investment policy. We've codified this investment policy. We've become better organized around it to make sure that we can maximize the growth of the money that people dedicate to us. And I would like to point out, if you'd like to make a donation, it's really quite simple. On the First Unitarian website, firstunitarian.org, under members, there is a bar for the foundation and a brief description of all the...
Just click on the foundation bar.
Foundation, yes, and there'll be a brief description of the funds that we just talked about, if you want more information there. And then there's a one-page form. And on that form, you can indicate where you'd like your money to go, which one of these funds, and indicate whether you're going to make an upfront contribution or it'll be as life insurance policy or in your will, and just pass that back on to the office at the First Unitarian. And if you'd like to be a friend of the foundation, that's easy enough to make happen.
Yeah, and we realize that many of you are taking part in other congregations, and hope that you support them well too. We're just one of 11 Unitarian Universalist congregations here in the Twin City area.
Right.
And certainly in collaboration with other downtown congregations, we see they have foundations as well. But it sounds like you've managed to get us into a very good position, Sam.
I think so. I think the future looks bright.
I want to thank you for your bringing your expertise and your presence
Well, great. Thank you.
to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis.
My pleasure.
And I hope you can tune in to the next program in Free Thinking Forum.